So I'd like to applaud the panelists to take a stand and actually be leaders in their religious communities to stand on the side of the LGBT community. But my question is that without trying to generalize religious groups, I believe that there are still a lot of religions out there who are against the LGBT community. But I'd like to ask any of the panelists who have many experience with other colleagues of your religion or other colleagues in the religious communities, how they reacted to your support of LGBT and how you maybe counteracted it. Thank you.
Well, I handed the mic first, so I will just say that the Unitarian Universalists have always been spiritually progressive. I have personally never met one person who has been homophobic in the ways that I would consider that, not allowing people to have the same rights as anyone else. It's more just the opposite. Because Unitarian Universalists think for themselves, they are encouraged to think for themselves and create their own spiritual path. There may be some who are homophobic, but I personally don't know any, as I said. Also, there are many people in our clergy who are gay, lesbian, transgendered, bisexual, questioning, queer. And I would say that right now there's probably 1/3 of our seminarians are GLBT. So that tells you the overwhelming support for the GLBT community, sexual orientations.
In the year 2000, I was at a New Year's Eve party, and I was standing there speaking with a woman, and she says, "You're gay and you're a priest?" And I said, "Ma'am, have you ever been to St. Peter's in Rome?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Let me let you in on a small secret." I said, if straight boys built a church, it had been an A-frame with cottage cheese on the ceiling. The point is that most priests are gay. Shock. In fact, Father Donald Cousins, who was the rector of a major seminary at St. Mary's in Cleveland, Ohio, and also a psychologist, wrote 2 books. One is The Changing Face of the Priesthood, and the other is Freeing Celibacy. And in his books, he documented, and he did research that in his estimation, about half the clergy are gay, and the Roman Catholic priesthood has become a gay profession. And when priests read this, they're shocked that the numbers are so small, only 50%. And so that's good news and bad news. It's good news because you would think that that many gay clergy would be sympathetic. But the most homophobic people are repressed homosexuals. And that's the bad news. Now, I think that a lot of the things that I have said here today, many priests would say to a parishioner in the confessional or in a counseling session, but they wouldn't say it from the pulpit on Sunday because they would find themselves in my situation. And I've had many emails and phone calls from priests. I had one man say, "I wish I could say what you say, but I am 62. If I said that, I would have no health insurance, I have a heart condition, and I would die." You know? And so priests are restrained from speaking publicly. And I think if you look at another issue, artificial contraception, I can tell you as a pastor and a priest for over 25 years now, about 3% of Catholics actually follow church teaching on contraception. And if everybody that doesn't was dealt with strictly and denied communion, Catholic churches would be empty. And when I look at my Protestant brothers and sisters who are anti, same-sex marriage, Reverend Benitez made the point that the Gospels are silent on homosexuality. And yet, Christ in the Gospel says if a man divorces his wife and remarries, he commits adultery. Now, if some of these mega churches, the minister got up on Sunday morning and said, "Everybody here who's divorced and remarried, you're an adulterer, you're going to hell." Half the congregation would stand up, walk out the doors, and take their checkbooks with them. So it's a very selective piety that they have. And but I think within Catholicism, in answer to the question, many priests when it came to this issue, remained silent. They didn't speak. They didn't say anything about Prop 8. And in fact, the director of the permanent diaconate in our diocese said it divided the priests and the deacons, because the deacons were all preaching yes on 8, yes on 8, yes on 8, and priests were silent, and it had divided them. And that speaks a lot about where we are as a church. And I liken it to a family, that it's a process of accepting. It takes time, and hopefully we'll get there. And some places are very welcoming, some are not. Some people choose to leave, and some choose to stay and try to change things. And that's the state of affairs in Roman Catholicism.
What I can say is that within mainline Protestant denominations, the issue of sexuality and homosexuality is a very tense issue. There's a lot of division still within the churches. And within the Episcopal Church itself, at the last General Convention that we had, which we celebrate every 3 years, the position was taken that all baptized members of the church are full members of the church. That means that if you're a homosexual person who's been baptized in the church, you are a full member and you have access to all the sacraments of the church, and you cannot be discriminated against. That was the position of the General Convention, and that's where the direction of the entire church is decided. And that's decided by what we call the House of Bishops, which include all the bishops of the Episcopal Church, and the House of Deputies, which include lay delegates and priests. When we had our General Convention, the Archbishop of Canterbury came. He was present. And his message to the Episcopal Church was that we not take that direction, because ever since the church consecrated the first openly gay bishop, Gene Robinson, to the episcopate, who became a bishop, it created a real rift within the worldwide Anglican communion. The Episcopal Church is only one church within the worldwide Anglican communion. And the Archbishop of Canterbury is the spiritual head. He doesn't have the authority of a pope. He can't dictate to the Episcopal Church in the United States what it will do or not do. That's decided at General Convention. It's a much more democratic process. But even with his urging the Episcopal Church of the United States not to take that direction, the convention voted to go in that direction anyway. It has created tension within the Episcopal Church. Not everyone in the Episcopal Church is open and affirming, but generally speaking, my colleagues are open and affirming and inclusive, but we've agreed within the Episcopal Church, for the most part, that if we don't agree on the issue of sexuality, we won't let it tear us apart. We don't want that to be the one thing that will tear us apart and separate us and lead to further division. What we want is to move toward reconciliation. And as I said in my address, it's very, very, very difficult work. It's very difficult work because we're bringing people with different backgrounds, different prejudices, different understandings, and try to pull them all together in one vision. And that doesn't happen overnight, but we are doing the difficult work. And my observation about organized religion in general, not just the Episcopal Church or mainline denominations or the Roman Catholic Church, is that we as human beings bring our shadows into the church, and we make it imperfect. There's not an institution on this earth that is perfect. Show me an institution that you claim is perfect and I'll call you a liar. Government is not perfect. Families are also institutions. What family do you know that is not dysfunctional? They're all dysfunctional. Religion is no different. Any human endeavor which has an institutional character is imperfect. Yet the general tendency is to judge the church. We tend to put the church on a pedestal. Well, you're not supposed to be that way because you're the church. We're human beings, and we're divided. And it's very difficult for us to have a clear vision. But if we go back to our scriptures, we go back to our faith, we go back to our vision, whether we're Buddhist, whether we're Christian, whether we're Jewish, whether we're Muslim. I know lots of openly progressive Muslims who advocate for equality. We arrive at the same place. It's all about love. The message of all of our religions is about love, is about compassion, is about coming together. When we can get beyond our prejudices, then we find that we are that love, and we can work together, and we can build something different. But it is difficult work. It's difficult work. We still have a lot of work to do, and it takes people of conviction and courage who are willing to remain within these structures to change them. You can't do it from the outside. You have to do it from within. You have to keep challenging our institutions, and in turn that gives courage to those who are willing to take a stance to go forward. And it's not an easy task. It's not an easy task. So, short answer is, not everyone is on board, but we're working on it, and together we will make the difference. We will make the dream a reality.